Hey, folks, welcome back to another program with your host, Rachel Scos, moi, and my good pal, Blake McKenzie, over in the co pilot chair. Or, yeah, literally co pilot. We're both, we're both doing the same thing. He drives, I drive. Vamonos, let's go. Ricardo Jimenez. See, Vamonos. Okay, here we are. Anyway, yeah, it's great. Always great to hear from Ricardo. He's a good guy. He watches my other program, my music based program, and I will be broadcasting at 4 o'clock Pacific time today. So in a few hours' time, after Blake and I wrap up here, I got a couple hours off, settle down, relax, unwind, and then back into the chair, and more nonsense ensues. This one a little less nonsensical, unless you're a liberal, and then you'll be I don't know, disparaging, let's say. First story I want to follow is there's some good news. Some polling came out today on MAGA. How's MAGA doing, right? We've got a lot of infighting going on. Big names, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, some other character. There's a bunch, Hodgkin twins or whatever they're called.
Hodgson,
Different people we got different people. I'll grab the old keyboard. Look how glowing and gamier like it is. I like flying flight sims. So I got quite the gaming rig. But anyway, let's go. Let's make it a little bit bigger, Blake, for the kids at home, so you can play the Rachel and Blake show at home with an at-home edition of the Political Nooner, Ghost Town Politics. YouGov, percent of who identify as MAGA supporters. Interesting, right? This poll just came out. All U.S. adults, 27% of American adults of all stripes and varieties now identify as MAGA, Make America Great Again. Fantastic. It's a new high. And Republicans, those that identify as Republicans, 65% of those now identify as MAGA. So that also is a new high. So apart from what all the doomers and the, and all that negativity are saying, the good news is that things are happening in a very positive way, that MAGA is alive, well, healthy, and growing. So it's all doing great. Trump approval. Then it broke it down to MAGA supporters only. 91% of Trump's base approves, only 5% those that are identified as MAGA. So Trump's doing well. The war, Trump pulled the art of the deal again. Said, listen, you Iranians, you better clean up your act, open the Hormuz Strait, or I'm going to just blow you up. I'm going to blow you up. And so they, for their part, they went, oh, yeah. And but apparently it all works out. And Trump says, okay, good. You're going to be good. So I'm giving you a moratorium for 5 days. We aren't going to blow the hell out of your electrical infrastructure, but behave yourselves, or I can turn on a dime. But for everybody that's going, oh, it's World War III, we're doomed. None of that happens. So wonderful stuff. And feel free to drop a nod to Promethean Action, your response to this, or not. I leave it entirely your discretion. Blake, your thoughts on Trump's ultimatum, the growth of MAGA. It's not just sustaining or losing ground. It seems to be gaining ground. A lot of support. We also got some good news coming out of the airports that we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I got another one. But anyway, okay, Blake, take it away. Have fun.
Start off with MAGA.
Yeah.
If you don't support the at least in theory the idea of making America great again, what else? What's the alternative? Not to have a great nation, to have a loser nation, to have people who hate their nation? Is that what is the opposite of MAGA? If you're a U.S. patriot, it doesn't matter who's in charge. It doesn't matter if it's Trump or anybody, but if you should love your country and want to see it be great. That the great provides you security, provides you wealth, provides you opportunities. Why wouldn't you do that? So I'm a little surprised the poll shouldn't be 100%. Everybody should be MAGA. I don't care what side of the fence on. You want your country to be great, period. Full stop. Doesn't matter about all the idiosyncrasies, but now we're getting into, well, there is actually people who hate their country and don't want it to be successful and want it to be a loser. So, and that would be what the Americans define as liberals, but I would be more inclined to define as more of Marxists or socialists on that side. So those people are the ones that are a problem. Now, with regards to the infighting within MAGA, I think part of that has to do with the fact that MAGA was now in charge. You have all of these people who are making huge amounts of money in opposition to the government.
Yeah.
And when you're in opposition, you had huge views. All of a sudden, Trump wins. You know, the Republicans win the houses. They get control of both. We're fully in charge now. All of a sudden, what happens to your viewerships? They get complacent. They get relaxed. They're like, oh, great, we won. Okay, woo, let's parade down the street with our Stanley Cup kind of thing. But all of a sudden, these guys' algorithms start to slow down. So some of these people are there. They know the more controversy, like I see this on X, right? A lot. Far left crazies, we call them in Canada, or elbows up morons that we have up here. But the algorithm feeds on rage baiting. So basically they purposely make outlandish statements to drive the algorithm to people to respond negatively. And I think that's a big part of it. But the second part of that is I do believe it's being manipulated as well by foreign interests that have co-opted and have got some of these influencers, let's call them for what they are, political influencers, and they need money. And without that crowd, though, so they're willing to take money from somebody who's willing to pay them to change the tone. And let's put it this way. MAGA is split in one area, or the people at least trying to drive that wedge over Israel. That seems to be the focal point over Israel and Netanyahu. And second to that is, of course, no more forever wars. But I think they misread Trump. Trump's not trying to start a forever war, but they're trying to promote the idea that Trump is being led by Netanyahu to get into a forever war, regime changes, just like we saw under the prior presidents, right? Regime changes in all through the Middle East under the Clintons, Obama, Bush Jr., it just the continuing on of all these endless wars. Afghanistan was a nightmare. So I think that's kind of part of it. But a few of these people, I'm not sure to read. I'm not a big fan of this Nick Fuentes.
No, he's not. He's a bad
he
actor.
Seems to be the guy they're all pointing to, and his comments. And I've watched him. And yeah, he has some pretty intelligent things to say, but it's very highly. There's something not right about the guy. Your spirit just kind of goes. There's something slimy about him.
Good.
And I just don't trust who he is. He seems like he could be a deep state plant to create division within the MAGA movement. And the others, I don't understand Tucker, because he was a huge supporter. I'm getting a little concerned that MAGA is starting to get all crazy. There's people trying to drive further division. I think General Flynn's not a problem. I just saw Eric Trump just talk about him, basically saying, no, Flynn's fine. So Eric Trump says he's fine. He's a good guy. Leave him alone, right? I think they're trying to create civil war.
Flynn here's the deal. It's coming out of the whole panicking idea, like for the reasons you state, Blake, like the Israeli thing and ever-ending war. Flynn was saying it's World War III. We're in World War III now. So it's hyperbolic. It's freaking people out.
Well,
you go, oh my God, we're doomed.
But I think people need to understand the term World War doesn't necessarily mean a physical conventional war that we were thinking like World War II. Everybody was on front lines, killing each other, mass murder, all that kind of stuff. Well, mass murder has been going on for a while now in multiple countries. And nobody seems to give a crap when it happens in a country that has no name, or isn't a threat in the world, like Rwanda. Right, where or we talk about what's happening in
up on the map,
massacres going on in Nigeria, right, where the Islamic or people, that group there is murdering hundreds of thousands of Christians in Nigeria. But it was Trump that spoke up and said, "Hey, we'll hit you guys," and did hit them. in Nigeria, which was not a economical hit. Like it wasn't it's all tied to oil. No, it's not always. Sometimes it is the right thing to do. If Obama had hit those guys in Nigeria, you would all be parading them as saving these poor innocent Christians being massacred by Islamic extremists in Nigeria. But to get to the second point, so MAGA panicans, I think we need to take that with a grain of salt. I think ultimately in the end, I go with Glenn Beck's position. Nobody knows what the end result is because we're not in the situation room. We're not there at the strategic planning. We're only opining these ideas from what we're watching or what we've read. So what the end result is, I think, is the World War. We are in a geopolitical world war right now. Economic. It's an economic war on right now. And that's where the Strait of Hormuz, what's going on there, I think is where it's got people in a panic, because the real people funding this in the background are, remember, who was the target for MAGA when they gained power all along was the WF, the World Economic Forum, the Great Resetters. You'll own nothing to be happy. You'll eat bugs. That crowd, the guys that ran the COVID-19 scam, the ones that are running the carbon scam on the world, the globalist bankers running out of the city of London who control the EU, who have had controls mechanisms in place in the United States, who had geopolitical control over many countries and have been manipulating for a long time. And that's where the schism is. That's where the war is right now. We're in it. I'm watching because I love mining. I love watching the precious metals market. It's going like this right now. There is a war right now in the metals market. It doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense when you see supply side economics, which is simply supply and demand. You've got supply, you're getting short on supply, and you got high demand. That means the prices go up. That's just the way it works in truth. Yeah. But when you're seeing the opposite, where there's this manipulation going on in the banks and in the markets, and it's tied to paper tigers, which are in charge of the too big to fail banks, who are allied to, some people would say we're former allies of us. Let's just call it that. That interest group that is trying to retain that power is still there. So what's happening in Iran is in a bigger picture. People are saying, well, it's not as easy as 3D or 4D chess. No, it is a 4D chess game, because America's trying to be great. It wants to be its own entity in the world and not being manipulated by these other financial interests in the world. And they're breaking free of that. That's what the whole Monroe Doctrine, we call it today, that the formerly known as Monroe Doctrine, is to break the Western Hemisphere to be free, to be able to have its own zone and out of the control of foreign influence from other countries, namely Europe, namely Great Britain, namely China.
Yeah, there's some really good developments happening, though.
But just to finalize that, but the fact that what's happened in Iran, that threat, that was a game of chicken, in my opinion, that Trump was playing with the city of London. It was like, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to just blow this whole thing up, and you guys are going to get nothing. And these are the guys that established these colonial powers. The old world order had established these powers in the Middle East for their control. So they can stabilize and destabilize for profit. This is why they've been running this scam for a long time. And what's interesting, behind the scenes, quietly, guess what's happening? Trump, the Saudis, and everybody, what have they been working on? Running a pipeline to the Red Sea.
Yeah.
It's just, so the Strait of Hormuz,
Trump's
it's going to become... It's
Yeah.
going to end. You won't need it. It'll be Iran. They're the only one. Okay, sure, you have it. Well, these block you out. You're gone. You're done. Now, everything's going to go through the Red Sea, and everyone's like, well, the Houthis are going to get activated. Well, the Houthis are going to get smoked if they try to start hitting the Red Sea shipping in there. And but they're surrounded. I mean, the Houthis will be finished. But
they're. I don't see them anywhere. They're another smaller branch of the control.
Sorry,
of
Houthis. I think. Sorry, Houthis were the ones in Rwanda. So,
the ones that are in
Yemen,
Qatar and all that. Yemen.
Well, yeah. So I think we're in for, again, we're in exciting times. through all this peace through strength, you've got to show it. You got to break the old world order. Who were these destabilizing order? They made money securing these places. I mean, the fact that they have offshore banking countries where you pay no taxes, where the elites of these same banking cartels run worldwide, makes you wonder, why would they even set those up? Why would the city of London, why would there be places that you could have offshore banking places where you can run trillions of dollars and not have to account for it through your own country? And I think Trump's trying to break that. I think he's breaking it all.
Let's look at one of those banks.
Yeah.
This Churchill. This happened. Rothschild's Bank of Paris was raided due to ties with Epstein Island. And there's a little breakdown here on just exactly how they work with the banks. 2015, Rothschilds recommend policies to every government. 2017, Epstein credits Bill Gates' private pandemic simulation. All their money is in for all this, and this is why they're being investigated. 2019, the pandemic actually happens. These inbred should not be in charge of our lives. Letter of agreement here, dear Jeffrey Epstein. Sign presumably the Rothschilds, Liz Churchill, doing due diligence on it. There's some text on it, but this is just a takeaway. All you need to know is the Rothschilds Bank were raided, and I believe it was. I'm not sure. I think it was Interpol, but if somebody is following that, let me know exactly. But the good news is that it's under scrutiny. And so all this banking, the World Bank system, the money laundering, we're seeing a lot of it is being broken up. California now, lots being revealed there, lots being revealed in Minnesota. And of course, the big names like the Rothschilds, this sort of thing, which sounds so crazy and out there. But ever since we learned that there really was an Epstein Island, that Ghislaine Maxwell actually did have a submarine driver's license, pilot's license. How many of your friends have one of those? I don't know.
Yeah. And Pizzagate wasn't really just a pizza shop. It actually was code words.
Yeah, well, Pizzagate really is a thing, and it's, however you want to try and disparage it. And they tried, and I believe largely succeeded, but it didn't take away from the reality that there was a lot of corruption and the children were at risk and all this sort of thing. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I want to switch topics really quick from the banks.
Yep.
This thing, this meme went out. It had over 1 million views, and the person running goes, "This thing has over 1 million views, the original one." But anyway, blah blah blah. This is the picture, and the question was, why does this picture of the Air Canada plane at LaGuardia have so many freaking views? And then this guy goes, here's why. I'll share the image. This is just absolutely remarkable. How does an airplane get destroyed by a fire truck? You can destroy the Twin Towers in New York. That is one of the most profound. I got to make that full size. I got to make this full size just so that the impact of this is not lost on anybody.
Yeah.
How does an airplane get destroyed? There's the airplane, and there, the front of it, there's the Canadian Express. Yet also destroyed two of these. One hit one tower, one hit the other tower. So basically one per tower. One of these can take down a tower. Yet a fire truck can wreck the shit out of this. And that's just like, I don't know whether it was taxing or whether it was coming into land. I don't know exactly it was coming into land, but the whole front end on it is just obliterated. And so it kind of defies reasoning, I don't know. What do you think, Blake? What's your thought? To me, I thought it was a very powerful image, and I want to get just the writing on time. How does an airplane get destroyed by a fire truck, and it can destroy a tower, a building tower?
Well, I mean,
it crumples up like a tin can.
We could spend hours going through the 9/11 conspiracy theories that seem to be a fact. Building 7 collapses without a single plane hitting it. does a pancake collapse, which is basically boom, 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 like goes down like a controlled blast. I mean, you can
without getting into the whole thing, I just think that one picture really resonated.
Maybe it's a sign
me.
that Canada just, it's ordering cheap planes made of plastic. I mean, because I guess those fire trucks aren't just little fire trucks. If you've ever seen on the large airport, they are monster. They're like battle tanks. And they're heavy because they're full of water too. So, that was a smaller plane, I believe, than the ones that happened in 9/11.
It's still a twin engine,
but it's still curious that it wouldn't just, but it was a head-on impact with something really heavy.
You know what's really cool? Here's something my super smart better half said earlier today to me. She said, why don't they just get radar controlled jets of the configuration went in the towers and get a semi-structured tower, build a tower and run and guide it into it out in the Mojave Desert and see if the fucker falls down.
Well, the funny thing
I would pay. I wouldn't mind my tax dollars going for that.
Well, people would probably pay money to watch it. So you could probably charge $100 a ticket.
Here we're going to re-event, and it doesn't have to be the full thing. It just has to be a building, and it doesn't even have to be built as strong as the Twin Towers. It just makes sure it's credibly built. And it doesn't have to be way as tall and as high. It can be, because we saw how it crumbled. We know how it collapsed, flop down, boom, boom, boom. We saw them go down. When anybody watched it, anybody old enough to remember 9/11, you never forget it. It just and it like sprayed out. It was like caving in, and then it was foaming out at the top like a little fountain of dust and debris as it collapsed down. I just think, you could probably do something like that fairly affordably. Load it up with however much gas it is and just see if it takes the fucker down. And then, because both went down, so they were batting. What were they? They were
3 buildings. 3 buildings.
Number 7.
By 2 planes.
Building 7 went down.
Which is a big building.
I know. So anyway, I just think that's bogus. I think there's some skullduggery afoot. But I just thought that picture, that meme, really put some perspective on things. Like,
change the world, but it did change the world.
It sure the hell did, Blake.
America,
it sure the hell did.
What happened in America spread into other countries worldwide, especially in the Western world, where security changed. The Patriot Act was created out of that.
Yeah, it did.
Which was a surveillance state that changed its focus in Europe, changed its focus here in our own country, in Canada.
The world changed. Yeah.
I mean, I was working in an airport when they made a lot of these changes. I was working for an airline at that time, and to go through security, they were just bringing in. Because they found the guy who had a bomb in his shoe.
Because all that happened after you and I met each other and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's in a period of time when you and I weren't really hanging out. So you were at where, UVic? I mean, not UVic, but the Victoria Airport.
Yeah, exactly. I did. I was there for about a year with a small airline. They ended up shuttering its business in Victoria. But anyways, going through security, I had to go through all that. Initially, I had my red zone pass. They had a double. This was strange. I had a double check on my ID, and it went so deep, security clearance. They needed to know my family and who my family was, who they were associated with politically, like were they members of a political party?
Really?
And it was a joint information gathering and background check by both the FBI and the RCMP. So I thought that was really unique that they were doing.
They know a lot about you.
They gave me what was like a red card, red zone pass, which is basically the top tier on an international airport.
Yeah, high clearance. Yeah,
high clearance to go through. Well, 6 months later into the high clearance, we were able to, go in and out of security whenever we wanted, walk out onto the tarmac, do all that kind of stuff. We can get right into the plane. So that wasn't an issue. But 6 months in, all of a sudden this change came. All of a sudden we weren't to be trusted anymore. We had to be searched in our own line to go in and out. And they were like, our version of TSA in Canada. They had these little bowl of candies for us on the sides. They're really sorry, guys. You got to take your shoes off. You got to do all this. Yeah. Every time we're going out, we're like, this is crazy. But what was really unique about those red zone passes, I used it to cross the border into the U.S. So I had it with me, because you always have it with you. You don't want to lose it. Carry it with you. Or unless you go away, put it in a safety deposit box. Because if that's ever stolen, something happens, your ass is grass, right? It's like, so anyways, I went up to a border guard crossing into the US, and I had that red zone pass, and he was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're in, no problem.
Yeah.
They recognize it right away, because it's
high level.
The world changed. Everybody was being watched. Everybody had to be, nobody could be trusted. That was the theory behind it. So we went from a high trust society to a non-trusted society. And it's not us, the grassroots people. It was the elites in the world said, you no longer can be trusted. So, but fascinating how that all worked after that.
Speaking of airports, another victory for Trump. Trump right again. He's always right. I love this guy. We got this story. Let me make the link a little bigger once I got a lot of tabs open. Holy smoke, CNN just infuriated Democrats, showing video proof that more TSA lines are open than normal in Atlanta after the deployment of ICE. There may be a celebration here at the airport. Look, almost no line, no waiting. Unbelievable. There seems to be more lines open than normal. TSA workers are breezing people here. A lot of people are showing up shocked with how short the lines are. This is a huge win. ICE came in to likely save Americans hours of missed flights. So there's the report. I'll just play a little bit. I think there's some music here to screw us up.
Well, there may be a celebration here at the airport before it's all said and done, especially for the folks who've been working nonstop, extra shifts. If you look right here, you can see this is the main checkpoint. Almost no lines, no waiting, Sarah. And it's unbelievable at this point. This morning started briskly with a lot of people showing up here at the airport. Lines were long. People were waiting about an hour. But when that rush hour went away pretty quickly this morning, we ended up with this. And there seems to be more lines open than normal right now with the TSA workers here breezing people through. In fact, a lot of folks have been showing up shocked at how short the lines are. Take a listen to some of the folks we talked to this morning.
I don't see how extra security could be bad, you know.
Right.
I mean, they're going to help out and, make things move a little faster. But whether they're doing that or not, we don't know. But extra security is always good to me.
I mean, you think it's not going to be that bad, but then you get here and, you think, oh, man, it really is as bad as they say it is.
So there's a bit of a mix here. So when people were showing up and going right into the TSA pre-check line, a lot of them weren't even checking the main checkpoint line. That line has been open and moving pretty quickly. Some folks just get so used to going to the line they go to, they didn't even check to see what that's like. We've also seen those ICE agents moving through today. A lot of folks are saying they're very pleasant. Look, they're not wearing masks. In fact, on this line right here, you can see two of them standing behind the TSA agents. I'm not sure.
So it's remarkable. So ICE shows up, the lines magically disappear, and everything becomes workable all of a sudden. That should be some cause for concern. Blake, it's funny and it's like, whoa, that fixed that problem really quick. But to me, there's a dark underlining about this, that there are so many illegals, presumably using the transportation system, that when the word got out, ICE was going to be there, they go, shit, I'm not going to stick around for this. I'm getting the hell out of there. So maybe there should be some room for concern on that level. But having said that, tremendous. This is a PR coup for Trump. Not only did it solve the logger jams, there was a lot of pressure, and Trump seems to have released the pressure by getting ICE to show up. Thoughts?
Good comment by Salon Woodall there.
Salon, we love you, Salon.
How's great comment. Maybe that MAGA supporters should have been there registering people to vote. That's a good point at the airport.
There you go, registering people to vote. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was just laughing because I had this visualization because all of us who grew up in the 70s, remember Monty Python's Holy Grail, run away, run away.
Yeah, robbing the
As soon as
chicken.
I show something in this picture, run away. They're all running away.
Yeah.
Get out of the lines, disappear.
Yeah.
So yeah, airports are no longer safe for illegal people to be there. But yeah, it is concerning. If it was that overwhelming, I think that that would make sense. That you're obviously not having the problems in TSA lineups with people with bad ID and having to prove who they are, and now you're dealing with people who have followed the rules, have proper identification, they are who they say they are, and they skip right on through quickly. I mean, I experienced that really well when I went to Austin last March. And I was down in Phoenix last March, I was in Austin in April and Phoenix in March last year, and it was even great then. I mean, it was really quick. If you've got all your ID in order and you do things properly, things move quickly. But as you said, you've got people that are clogging up the lines, and you said if they're illegal, that's going to cause trouble.
It's going to clog up more. Presumably, I mean, they got to get some sort of ID, or they'll ask for some identification.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, yeah, it's one byproduct of good policies to clean up, make things smoother. I'm sure there's going to be the anti-MAGA people screaming, "See, tourism's dying in the United States. Nobody's coming. That's the real reason. Nobody's traveling." It's like, okay, but we'll watch those tourism numbers. I've seen all the reports. I'm in the business. Tourism numbers globally are marginally down overall, but that's a worldwide phenomena, not tied to the United States. So that's just inflation, but we'll see how that progresses the rest of this year.
Let's look at some more good news here. Things are moving. The wheels of justice move incredibly slow. And the wheels in Congress and the Senate, et cetera, and government move slow. Breaking Mitch McConnell, Moscow Mitch, the libs call him. But, I'm no McConnell fan. He's long past his best due date, his expiry date. The guy should retire. He's elderly. There's questions about his mental competence at this point. Anyway, he's voted yes. Him and his team, let's say, voted yes to advance Save America Act along with Susan Collins. Susan Collins, Mitchell McConnell, both of them, rhinos, people MAGA does not like, but they did the right thing. This says Save America's Act. First test vote to be successful. Even if we end up at a 50-50, JD is going to break the tie. This is so far, it's looking to be successful. So far, it's looking good. So Mitch McConnell and Susan Collins, two of the holdouts and two that could have been problematic in trying to get the Save America Act through. And this is the biggest legislation going right now. The fact that we're seeing positive movement on that front bodes well. I think the Save Act will come through, and that's going to be a big one. And before you answer, Blake, I just want to do one more here because it's kind of piggybacks on the one. Let's do this. Let's go here. Let's go. There they are, all in their little outfits. You want the outfit shot, ladies and gentlemen. Go to the U.S. Supreme Court and ban mail-in ballots completely. Breaking Supreme Court is now debating if they should strike down allowing mail-in ballots to come after Election Day. This is how you stop the steal. Let me go to our Supreme Court judges. There they are, looking lovely in their little robes. I love you, Claras. So there they all are. You can do better, improve. I don't even know why you're there. But anyway, but we love Clara. He's the best. All right. So, Blake, we got two pieces of legislation. One's the SAVE Act. The other one's Supreme Court weighing in on mail-in ballots. You have your vote. Like even here in Canada, you get 3, 7, 4, 5 a week, 2 weeks later, and suddenly we have a winner, everyone.
Yeah.
It's like the groundhog is faster at spotting or not spotting its shadow than these idiots. So clearly, I think this is where election fraud happens during that period of time. I think, during that period of time, we don't have enough votes. Let's print up a few more, stack them up and get them all done. Then we're all going to be good to win. We win. We win. We finally win. We win. Oh, boy, happy days. Boy, oh boy. And it looks like the Supreme Court is poised to knock it down. That mail-in ballots, you're going to have same-day voting. There's no grace period. If anything goes to the military only, I think extensions for the military and first responders, something like that. But if you're a mechanic, you're tough out of luck. Be there or don't not be there. And if it requires having the day off and giving people a day off of work, then pass that into law. If that's going to be a complaint, I couldn't get away from work, and now my right to vote is destroyed by an evil line-carrying administration.
Yeah.
Blake, take it away. Two things: mail-in voting and what was
Save Act? Save Act.
Yeah.
It's the Save Act is a no-brainer. Why it's even close in the
Right.
Senate?
So you got to show ID. Save Act, in a nutshell, you got to show ID, kids. Then once your ID, 2 pieces of ID, you're in, you vote.
And I think there's some aspects within state redistricting aspects that they're mad about, but that's part of the scam as well, that the redistricting doesn't line up with the actual demographics and how people move or live in those areas, and they've shown proof of that. But I think, ID is ID. You need ID. You need ID to drive a car. You need ID to go buy a case of beer out of the liquor store. You need ID to do most things in life, and nobody questions it. But the important part is the polling. Democrats overwhelmingly and voters support voter ID. So even on the other side of the aisle are supportive of it. So what is the problem here? And we know why. And that's, again, the deep state machine trying to rig elections. Doesn't matter what political party, it's whoever they control, is they want to get in there. So it could be, rhino Republicans or Democrats that are hating America. They're there to work for who put them into power, and they shouldn't be there if they didn't actually legally run or win. So this is great. And the mail-in ballots, we've had that problem here too. We experienced just what America went through here in British Columbia, where there was just tranches of envelopes showing up out of nowhere after the election was over. Oh, we found another box. Oh, there was another box.
Same thing,
there's another.
There's these 2 women driving around with a big bag full of ballots, and they were being followed. And the guy go, "What the hell are you doing?" And no chain of custody. It's just absolutely criminal. So the world needs to get control. I think taking Venezuela out was a big thing. We just had positive votes in France and in Germany. Both of them going surprisingly, it went to the far, what the left calls the far right. Basically, our people got
anybody normal. Yes, anybody in the former center, or the classical liberal type of people, not the left wing Marxists and fascists. But this is exactly where we're at now, where normal people could actually win and get rid of these election rigging systems that they cheat all the time. So this is great. Get rid of the machines. There should be no voting machines. Physical ballot could be scrutinized as well properly. So you can get scrutineers in there to check them over to make sure it's not like, oh, look, there's 40 of these, all look identical, and have kind of weird kind of markings on them that came from a printer, because they were finding that kind of stuff. But you're right. Venezuela was the operations for the making of those machines. So we'll see if it passes. I'm sure it will. Because I don't know, Trump would be forced to veto if it comes back. Say, I'm going to try and force this through. He has ways to force the Senate, and so does the House, to get them to do what they want. If they just basically say, well, then you're not going to get this. So the horse trading in those 2 bodies, or 3 bodies, I think it'll pass through. I think it has no choice. It is truly save your country. Otherwise, you're co-opting it to foreign interests who can manipulate those votes any way they want. But there's another point I think everybody should watch. But we know about Nick Shirley and his exposing the fraud in Minnesota, but he's in California now. And there's a group of others that are doing the same thing that are hitting the street, including what's his name from Project Veritas?
I know.
Sorry, mine's going blank. Anyways, you know what we were talking about.
I know.
Anyway,
Yeah.
he's no longer with Project Veritas.
No,
but he
because
started,
they got, there was a
he was
coup there.
the deep staters took over and got rid of him because
Yeah.
he was getting
Yeah.
too good, exposing all their crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're out down in California exposing the voter election and petitioning fraud. Literally the streets, the homeless people, they're down there and they're getting paid and they're paying people to sign petitions and voter registrations and all this kind of stuff, signing off ballots. Like it's just shows just how rotten the system is. So the SAVE Act, at least at a federal level, will put an end to that. State, well, you states, you got to fight to get your own local laws changed. In California, it's a mess. Minnesota, I'm sure, same thing. So,
well, interesting too that now that things are getting under control, we're not there yet, but we're seeing some positive developments. There was a special election in Virginia that went to the Republicans overwhelmingly. This was a Trump supported. And keep in mind, Trump's magic touch is still well intact. People that he tends to support, they tend to win. Lisa Murkowski, they have the ranked choice voting in Alaska, and that's why she's been allowed to survive as long as she had. She's a rhino. Her base is, which are MAGA people, they want her out. Scott Pressler, the young gay man with the long flowing locks, is a lovely human. He's running around and he's headed out there to challenge her. So that could go very, very well for us. She's got to go. People like her and Mitch McConnell and any number of, rhino Republicans, Tom Massey, people like that, they got to go. We got to get rid of him. Rand Paul, I include him. Get rid of him. We got to be solid, united. Divided we fall, united we stand. Let's get together, rally behind the president, and see him through, and get things done in a very positive way. Also, speaking of positive way, I just had this up here. This is more good news. CNN was out there lying about the president, and he proved them wrong, which is kind of what he does a lot of. This is it. I love this. Here, let's go share. Boom, boom, boom. Brendan Daly. This is a great account. One well worth following. Again, I want to make this bigger. Playing around with the font sizes today. Got too big, got too small. President Trump, right again. Panicans are eating another shit sandwich, Brenda Daly. Breaking, Iran now confirms there has been outreach between the U.S. and Iran, and that Iran is willing to listen to proposals. So CNN was running with the story that Trump was lying about Iran, that it wasn't happening, that there was no negotiations with Trump's people. And Trump was saying it's going very well. 5 days we'll get rid of them, and then we'll see where we are. But it's looking very good. Regime change in place. That's got to be one of the fundamentals. No nuclear weapons. So they've conceded already on that point. But the main issue here is Trump said that his team was negotiating with whoever the hell's in Iran. And Trump, it was very interesting, because Trump was saying it's not the Ayatollah's gay son. He's in a coma, or he may be dead. They don't know where he's at. He may be
in bits and pieces sewn together.
They just don't know. Yeah. But, so anyway, there's just so much good stuff happening.
Well, I just want a quick point on that.
Yeah, do.
So if he's truly failing in Iran, answer me this, those that are in opposition. Why are we seeing all these mullahs pouring into Canada? I mean, they're going into the UK, they're pouring into Canada, they're all escaping like the Nazis were at the end of 1945. We're all sneaking into Canada and other parts of the Argentina. We know where they all went out and hid. Yeah. So if they're fleeing, what does that say it's happening on the ground that we don't see? That there is the insurgency against the regime, the rebellion is strong.
Yeah, you referenced earlier in the program in a very humorous manner the Monty Python skit, Sir Robin the Chicken.
Run away! No, well, all of them. Remember, they're throwing. The French were hurling.
They all go because everything. The bunny
they're trying to attack the French castle.
The catapult, the trenchant. But another film that comes to my mind about this sort of thing with the mullahs and everything is there's a movie called Start the Revolution Without Me. I think it came out around 1970 or so. Gene Wilder, Donald Sutherland as the brothers
Yeah.
Justice, and they're up against the Duke de Scarcar. Anyway, the brothers Justice are there. So the King of France, Louis the 16th, is about to lose his head. There's problems. So they're storming Versailles, the king's palace there. The king dresses up as a peasant to escape the royal household. So he's got his little bag of clocks that he likes to work with. He got those. He's running away, and then suddenly he's walking, and a horde of French rebels are storming. So they're coming right at him. He's running. He stops. He turns around and he starts running with them to storm himself.
I know.
So there's your mullahs. We got to run, fall around, kind of dressed up. They come to Canada. Oh, I sure use some backbreaking. Let's get the mullahs.
Well, and people need to understand, like, it's something weird is going on, because apparently I was watching an X-Post video where YouTube video of, I think Rebel News was covering it, and it was just watching it yesterday, and it was a Iranian true political refugee here who's in Canada, and she is being attacked on X by Canada's in a Twitter war, threatening her for actually exposing in a photograph. Just put a question, it's like, who these are mullahs coming in.
We got
Canada.
the Iran Guard here. And remember, they went and killed, I don't know if it's the mullahs, I don't know who but people loyal to the Iranian regime went and murdered a Canadian, an Iranian hyphen Canadian who, she was more Iranian than Canadian. I think she just had escaped Iran, but she was very outspoken against the regime. They didn't like her, so they went into her house and murdered her.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks before they murdered her, they set her house on fire, which is nuts.
Well, the Canadian security, I think it might have been the RCMP or one of them, threatening her. Border Services, Canada's Border Services, Twitter, you can look it up. But anyways, they were criticizing her publicly, saying that she's could get in trouble for making, falsely identifying people. But she identified that's a mullah, right? And the mullahs are fleeing, and they're coming to Canada and which is interesting when we talk about the City of London's control, the old empire, the old world order, trying to manipulate things, are allowing these guys in with their passports to come here for safety. Because it must be on the ground there. They're all targets, right? And the fact is that what do they get? They get, they're what? Invested in Lloyd's of London. They're invested in all these to be able to get that passport to come to safety of Canada, to hide out and not be, with a regime change done by revolution. A freedom revolution around would be massive, but those guys might all face criminal prosecution for the crimes against humanity that they've been conducting for years on their own people. And again, their own people. But and we forget that the ground intelligences, they killed 30 or 40,000 people in a month. I mean, it was just for protesting, wanting the regime to go. So
in further developments, now I'm always of a mixed, mixed take on these things. There's so much talk done up on Capitol Hill. I'm just a bill up on Capitol Hill. There's so much talk, and sometimes we just don't see things getting done the way we should. So hope springs eternal. Nonetheless, at least it brings things out in the public eye. And Ted Cruz is having a good day up there today. Going to bat, talking about how the previous Biden administration were not doing things by the book. Holy crap, Senator Cruz confirmed Biden's FBI wiretap Susie Wiles. Now, Susie Wiles is Trump's chief of staff. She's battling cancer right now. We wish her health. We pray for health for Susie. But during a privileged call with her lawyer, she was spied on. They were wiretapped her. while she's talking to her lawyer without the consent of either her or the lawyer. So they went in and they wiretapped this woman to make it horrendously worse. They tried to hide evidence of their actions by marking the file prohibited. Now, I don't know what the number is, Blake, but it's in the millions of documents have been found yet again in a SCIF, a secure room for security purpose, information intelligence file room, tons and tons of FBI files with bad people's names all over them and their victims, essentially Republicans. Folks, this makes Watergate look like child's play. Accountability is not optional. These people must be. This is the thing. No more talk. I mean, I get it. You have to figure out what's going on, but let's get to the bottom of it. It's 3 minutes long, but let's hear what goes on.
Cleveland, Jack Smith issued nearly 200 subpoenas. Is that correct?
Yes.
Those subpoenas targeted over 400 Republican individuals and organizations, correct?
Correct.
Many of whom had no connection to those who entered the Capitol on January 6th, correct?
Absolutely.
And in fact, some of those organizations didn't even exist on January 6th. Is that correct?
It is.
So we're not talking about a narrow investigation. We're talking about a sweeping operation targeting virtually the entirety of the other side politically.
It was a fishing expedition.
So let's turn to the Constitution. Subpoenaing the toll records of members of Congress, does that raise serious constitutional concerns?
Absolutely. And in fact, we have the PIN who notified the special counsel's office of those concerns. And Jack Smith had apparently said that he was going to consult with the Solicitor General, according to the release of the information from Senator Grassley this morning. Yet when he was deposed by the House and was specifically asked if he spoke with the Solicitor General, he said, on this discrete issue, no.
Among other issues, it raises significant issues with the speech and debate clause, correct?
Absolutely.
So much so that, as you noted, when Jack Smith subpoenaed AT&T to get my toll records, AT&T refused to comply with the subpoena because they concluded that it violated the speech and debate clause. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. And they backed down.
Jack Smith did not try to enforce that subpoena, did he?
He did not.
He did not go to court and litigate the matter, did he?
He did not.
Does that suggest, as it does to me, that he knew damn well what he was doing was illegal and would not be upheld in court?
It does suggest that.
When the federal government subpoenas donor lists, internal communications, organization records, does that implicate the First Amendment and also freedom of association in particular?
It does, and the Supreme Court made that clear in the NAACP case.
Mr. Chamberlain, aside from the legal violations, what specific crimes, if any, were actually uncovered as a result of the Arctic Frost investigation?
I'm not aware of any crimes that were uncovered.
Would the senators, donors, organizations, and individuals who were surveilled and subpoenaed have ever learned about the Arctic Frost investigation had Trump not won in 2024?
Probably not, mainly because of these non-disclosure orders, but also, I mean, the fact that a lot of these records we're now just learning about them because they were in these prohibited access files only available to the FBI director. So if the FBI director was a Democrat, there's no reason to think we'd know about them.
How would you compare the scope of the violations in Arctic Frost to Watergate?
I think, if anything, it might even be greater. I mean, the scope of this in terms of the sheer number of people and organizations affected, and as I discussed, I mean, this brazen violation of attorney-client privilege, wiretapping a phone call between Susie Wiles and her lawyer, these are egregious offenses. And you know, if Watergate was just about a single break-in, I mean, this is effectively, compound that by 200.
All right. Pretty damning testimony there, Blake. So the whole thing's criminal and it's coming out. So do you think we're going to see justice in this thing? That's the big hope, right?
We hope. I mean, we've seen these committees just go on for years and years and years, and they're digging in for information. I think the best we can hope for is that there's institutional change that gets the rats and the deep state out once and for all, and they rebuild it to being what it's supposed to be, as a constitutionally operated agency of the government. No more being run by foreign influence, no longer being managed by people that are corrupt. They should have checks and balances in there. And that's what, the political operation of what we're seeing now is supposed to be the part where the checks and balances are in place. But, as I said, the rot so deep that they Watergate, to this date, people still look to Watergate as this horrible thing, but there's been stuff going on now that put that in comparison. I mean, Watergate was a nothing burger compared to what has been going on for the last decade. I mean, the whole how the FISA courts were used to create the dossier
FISA, right?
was bigger than Watergate. You're trying to take down a president with false information using a foreign influenced paid asset of a foreign country, regardless if you're an ally or not, to take down a sitting president with lies and corruption. That is not, that blows Watergate out of the water. And quite frankly, some people argued Nixon was a target of the deep state. That's kind of what happened. They wanted him out. They got rid of him and they put in Gerald Ford. I mean, it was all kind of a behind the scene hatchet job to get rid of him.
It was dirty. It was dirty. The other interesting thing about this is that we're talking about Jack Smith. He was a special prosecutor that was called in. And there's some questions even about the legality of him being able, how do you put it, assigned to the task, because Congress has to appoint him and he wasn't appointed by Congress. So there's that technicality issue that comes into play on this as well. And then it's not just Jack Smith, the DA, but under the previous FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, that administration also problematic. These slimy, treasonous scumbags, cat turd ghost, Paul Sperry, newly discovered secret subpoena info reveals that FBI Director Kash Patel's predecessor, Chris Wray, the head of the FBI, signed off on Special Counsel Jack Smith spying on Kash Patel's bank, credit card, and billing records, in addition to his emails and texts for 2 years. Democrat judges signed off on it all and said, yeah, you can go get these guys. But there's no crime there. It was just to get dirt. It was a political smear job, a hit job, that they didn't pull the strings on everybody, but they were information gathering, like the individual that had been subpoenaed there by Senator Cruz when he was asking the questions of her. She said it was a fishing expedition. So they went after bank records. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. They were trying to get information to see if anything untoward had happened with any of these individuals. Fortunately, by and large, they were clean. There was a couple of people that did go to jail. Paul Manafort, I think, ended up going to jail for a period of time amongst all of the people that were
Roger
there.
Stone,
Roger
Dave
Stone.
Bannon. I mean, all these guys, they went after anybody who was seen as directly connected to the whole MAGA movement.
Yeah, and not that I have any affection for Bannon. He's in my bad books right now. But one of the things we talked about too, Blake, was at the beginning of the year, we were saying, our predictions, one of them is getting rid of these judges. Well, one of the judges' names that keeps appearing over and over and over is this Boasberg guy.
Yeah.
Breaking U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro announces to activist Judge Boasberg, there it is, has blocked a grand jury from investigating the Federal Reserve. Now, the president wants Federal Reserve investigated to see what kind of money we got there, and gold reserve as well, Fort Knox, all that. Pirro says this block is totally illegal. She is the district attorney for District of Columbia. So she was hired by Trump or appointed by Trump to do this job. And she's saying she's getting Boasberg running interference. Again, this guy has been a real thorn in the administration's side. The House needs to start impeaching these activist judges. Enough is enough. As a result, quote, Jerome Powell today is now bathed in immunity, preventing my office from investigating the Federal Reserve. This is wrong. It's without legal authority for him to do so. So it's actually an illegal move. It's totally illegal. And yet he's using his judiciary powers.
Yeah.
He's going to say no, but Congress, he's a judge. Nobody can second guess this guy. He's got a lot of power. And so this needs to be brought to heel, and it needs to be brought to deal fast, especially because I said it would be by the year's end. So
Yeah.
I don't have too much. Come on, help me.
we got a bit of time to go here, but yeah, we
Okay.
want to do it before the midterms. Get some
Yeah.
people lined up, and because that starts getting exposed about the corruption within the Federal Reserve System. My only complaint on this is I wouldn't call them an activist judge. An activist judge would be, some cultural revolutionary who decides to ignore the Constitution and wants to play social justice warrior,
Yeah.
making rulings based on social justice versus actual law. That would be an activist judge in my books. No, this is a deep state judge. Big difference. These people work for the apparatus that's trying to manipulate and control and cheat in elections and control the financial levers in the economy of the world. These guys are trying to block access to one of the most powerful institutions and most secretive institutions that nobody can go in and see and audit because it's technically privately owned, but has this joined at the hip relationship that was created with FDR, that they have in this massive ability to profit from the printing and controlling revenue through private hands. I mean, this was started by the rich industrialists of both the United Kingdom and America who funded and created the Federal Reserve System. And again, there's no such thing as a US dollar that comes out of the Federal Reserve System. You'll note every single paper piece of money says Federal Reserve note. The US dollar is a constituted dollar. It has a weight and balances tied to it on gold and silver. That is a real dollar. These guys have been running a scam. They took it over. I think they want to have this audited so they can finally get to the bottom. Just who are these guys and how are they profiting off the backs of the United States?
This Boasberg guy is going to go down. I guarantee you, folks, he's going to go down.
Get him out of the way.
Jack Smith is going down. Justice will come. Don't give up hope. You've got to have hope. You've got your republic if you can keep it. The way to keep it, justice has to be served.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure about Pam Bondi, but I'm confident in Kash Patel and other elements there. And it's a patience. You really require the patience of saints for all this. But anyway, I see by the clock on the wall is 1:02. I want to thank Blake for being here with me today, as always. And you, our loyal, small but dedicated viewing public. You kids are great. We love that you support us and come here. And these are important issues that affect all of us. And I really do pray that we will see justice. I have to believe that we will. And I sure love Donald John Trump. What a guy. Did you see him swearing in? They had the swearing in for Trump got his pick. What is he? He's an assistant, he's deputy for Homeland Security. Apparently he's part Native, but he looks totally like a white guy. He's one of those white guys. And he goes, and Trump goes, Native American. He looks at him and goes, oh, let me look at it. Oh, interesting. Well, okay. Kind of like there's no way.
Look, he didn't call him Pocahontas, too.
Yeah, exactly. Same, everybody was thinking that. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Give us a like, a thumbs up, and we'll see you on Friday. We'll be back on Friday, and we'll see what events unfold between now and then. There's always something that happens.
Every week,
Thank everybody.
Every few days.
And if you're a praying type, continue to pray for the safety of the President of the United States of America. Thanks so much. Bye for now. Boom.